Who wants to see a big explosion?
Hey, welcome back to ScreenCrush. I'm Colton Ogburn, and oh boy, did Fantastic Four First Steps have a far from fantastic second weekend at the box office.
Say that again?
A performance so dismal that it has us wondering, is the MCU done for? And will Avengers Doomsday be one of the first Avengers movies that struggles to crawl across that billion-dollar line? A little later, I'm going to be joined by my friends Tommy Bechtold and Whitney Van Lanningham to get their thoughts on this massive drop and what it really means for the future of the MCU. But first, let me explain just how bad this drop really is. And hey, by the way, be sure to check out ScreenCrush on all major podcasting platforms and take a look at our merch store. We have lots of fun Marvel-inspired parody shirts, including a great Fantastic Four-inspired collection. Shopping our merch store is the best way to support our channel. Thank you so much for your support. So a second weekend drop-off percentage is always significant. Movies make the bulk of their money the first weekend that they're out in theaters, and the subsequent weekends are almost always far less than that initial opening weekend. Now, generally speaking, a 40% or less drop-off for a second weekend is considered great. 50% is fine, that's about average, but a 60% or more drop-off is considered bad and a signal that the film's total box office will be very underwhelming. And Fantastic Four First Steps had a 66% second weekend drop-off.
That's gotta hurt!
Now, before we go further, let me give a quick disclaimer. When discussing box office numbers, we're always talking about the domestic box office, which includes the US and Canada. That is the fairest way to discuss these numbers, especially when comparing them to other films for a plethora of reasons, such as films opening in different markets at different times, or not opening in those markets at all. So, domestically, First Steps opened with an impressive $117.6 million opening weekend, surpassing initial estimates that were in the $100 to $110 million range.
Money, I go. Money, I go.
This was huge and had many claiming that Marvel was back after multiple box office flops. This year alone, Thunderbolts, a great movie by the way, and Captain America Brave New World, a movie, they both underperformed compared to what the MCU is used to. And to be fair, Fantastic Four First Steps is going to make more money than both of those movies.
It did already.
Now, that bigger than expected opening weekend showed how excited the fans were to see Fantastic Four. And that's great. I'm glad that they have the base back, but they're gonna need way more than the base if they're going to be successful. What this drop-off is really showing us is that while Marvel may have gotten back the diehards, they have lost the general audience. And the general audience was the foundation of their big box office numbers from the past. When a superhero movie, or any movie for that matter, makes $1 billion, it's not because you and me and all the other nerds went and saw the movie. We account for a small portion of the audience, and we're pretty much always going to be there. We are the base. And the base is important, but in order for a cape flick to do big box office numbers, it also has to appeal to that general audience. And that is something that the MCU used to really thrive at. Now, a huge issue that the multiverse saga has had, remember, that's the post-Endgame era of the MCU, that issue being the fact that the audiences feel like they are being given homework. Not only because Marvel made the mistake of TV shows being required viewing to understand a movie, but because they released so damn much that even the people who wanted to keep up and watch it all couldn't. Hell, this is my job, and even I struggled to make sure that I saw every single thing that Marvel was putting out. Now, Kevin Feige and Marvel Studios, they have acknowledged this problem and they are committed to fixing it, which is great news. But I'm starting to worry that it might be too late. The audience has been trained that Marvel movies are now hit and miss, and that they'll be dropped on Disney Plus in a few months anyway. So when someone is deciding what they want to spend their hard-earned money and precious weekend time off on, they're not looking to take the gamble of going to see a Marvel movie. It used to be that you knew almost for a fact that when you went to see an MCU movie, you were going to be thoroughly entertained and enjoy your time at the movies. But that's just not the case anymore. And unfortunately, that's become the story for movie-going in general, not just with comic book films. And that makes me anxious not only because this is my job, to talk about movies and stuff, but because I'm a fan.
Other person, are you biting your lips again?
Yeah, man, it's a horrible habit I have, especially when I'm feeling anxious or nervous, but I'm actually getting better at it because I have replaced this bad oral fixation habit with a positive one by using Fume. They are the sponsor of this video. And I'm sure you guys have your own bad habits that you'd like to quit, especially in social situations when you are feeling anxious or just bored. For me, Fume has been a game changer. Fume doesn't use smoke or vapor, just natural flavored air that gives you something to reach for without the chemicals. Studies have shown that quitting a habit cold turkey is actually really bad for you, so I liked having something to reach for when I feel the urge, and it's an alternative to other harmful habits. Fume is an award-winning flavored air device that doesn't use combustion, and it's not even electronic. You can use it anywhere. There's no smoke, no vapor, no chemicals, just naturally flavored air. You see, it just has these plant-based cores that taste great, and they just introduced mango, my new favorite flavor. It's bolder than past flavors that I've tried, and I recommend it if you want to switch things up. These are non-toxic flavors and a guilt-free alternative with natural ingredients. But also I love the magnetic, fidget-friendly design that makes this incredibly satisfying sound. Guys, more than 500,000 people have already added Fume to their daily routine, and I totally get why. It's simple, satisfying, and it doesn't come with any of the downsides of your old habits. And right now, if you order the Journey Pack using my code ScreenCrush, you will get a free Fume topper. It's this little rubber piece so you can chew the end, and it is great for oral fixation anxiety. So if you've been thinking about changing your habits, this is the perfect first step. So go to tryfume.com/ScreenCrush or scan the QR code on screen to grab yours today. Now, back to what I was saying. Now, general audiences are becoming less and less confident that going to the movies is a good weekend activity, and with humans being a risk-averse species, many are opting to just wait until the movie drops on streaming, and I worry that that may be what's happening here with First Steps. There's no urgency, there's no feeling of missing out, no one cares anymore, and this could spell doom for Avengers Doomsday. Now, I am joined by my friends Whitney Van Lanningham and Tommy Bechtold, both from the Guardians of the Galaxy podcast that you guys do with our friend MT from our Enemy channel. Heavy spoilers, but that's okay. So, Tommy, I think you and me are kind of on the same page. We liked Fantastic Four, but we had issues with it. I think they cut it to hell. Like, it had no breathing room whatsoever. But Whitney, I haven't got to talk to you about First Steps. I've seen on Twitter a little bit of what you thought, so I want to give you the opportunity to share your thoughts on the movie.
Yeah, I will say I liked it a little bit more the second time I watched it, but the first time I watched it, I just wasn't for me. Wasn't a movie for me. Not that, like, I don't hate it. I'm not like, oh, the fantastic am I right? Like, no, that's not how I feel. I thought that it was
an insult or a
incredibly, you know what? Both. It's both. Los ambos, why not? So I felt like it was like very well cast. I think everybody did a killer job. But I think that, like, for starters, the humor wasn't really for me. I didn't really laugh at all during the movie, and it would be fine if the movie wasn't intended to make me laugh. But there were parts where there were clearly jokes in there. I think it just wasn't for me. Wasn't my sense of humor. Didn't make me giggle. That's okay. Not every movie's my slice of pie. And I was not a very big fan of the opening scenes. I felt like the pacing was just incredibly off, and it felt like they cut so much. I can get more into what I thought they cut later, but
yeah, I think it's kind of poetic how that opening scene shows that they really have, like, no faith in the audience. Like, they feel like they need to hold their hand, and
they're holding our hand so much, and it's exposition in a way that it in a way that really suggests that they don't trust their audience. And just for example, for me, like, and again, I'm not yucking anybody's yum. I'm not trying to say, well, Superman is better, so Fantastic Four can suck on my nards. Like, that's not how I'm saying it. But, like, something I loved about Superman was the exposition scene between Lois and Clark. I thought that was a great way to do exposition, having that conversation, because it trusted the audience. It trusted us to know what was going on. They could just drop us into the scene. So that was the difference for me with the two opening scenes.
I think Superman and Fantastic Four both kind of had an exposition issue. Like, I hated the opening crawl in Superman, and I hated when the engineer, where they're standing in Superman's fortress, and she's like, I have dedicated my entire life to you. Like, she's just explaining the plot. He already knows that. And in Fantastic Four, I didn't care for the opening scene where she finds out that she's pregnant, and they, like, feel the need to tell each other that they had decided that they were going to move on from trying to get pregnant. It was just so obvious that they were telling us little stuff like that. Anyway, Tommy, are you surprised by this, like, huge drop-off for the box office?
No. I think it was a huge mistake to release this movie 2 weeks after Superman. I think that, as has been treaded, this has been well tread on the internet, but the success of Barbenheimer and the fact that Barbie and Oppenheimer were both able to open to such huge numbers has led to this thought that people want to see two big movies within a short period of time. And traditionally, summer blockbusters, the month of July and even into August and into June, will have multiple big movies. The problem is, these are two similar of movies. Like, it's like Barbie and Oppenheimer are two very, very different blockbusters, right? Like, one is a, like, very haunting tale of the Manhattan Project and the life of the man who, the father of the atom bomb. And the other is a beloved toy that has been around for generations and a very interesting modern spin on it. So you go in with two very different experiences. Here, it's kind of, I mean, they're obviously different characters, but it's the same flavor, right? Like, it's kind of they're two of the more, would say positive comic book franchises. Like, Fantastic Four is kind of like this, like, group of avenging heroes that, like, protect New York City traditionally in the Marvel comics. Superman is like this savior of Earth that comes and gets us out of peril, this alien that kind of, you know, becomes the ultimate human being. And I just feel like 2 weeks apart, you were expecting in the current economy, people to shell out, a family of four, like $80 to $100 twice before snacks, and people just aren't going to do that when you couple that with the fact that these movies come out on digital within 2 months of their release. It's like enough people, including, I mean, I can tell you just by word of mouth, I have people at work that I sit with who are huge Marvel fans, who are huge DC fans, that do no longer feel the need to see these movies in theaters. And that's a huge problem. When the fans, because you got to count on the fans, and I think the fans show up opening week. But 2, 3, 4 weeks in, those are just moviegoers that see movies, and they're just not excited about these movies anymore.
And that sucks too, because also it's very disheartening when I'm trying to bully my friends into listening to our podcast, and they're like, "Oh, but I haven't seen the last 12 teen Marvel movies," and I'm like, "Why?" And they're like, I'm not going to go to this one. It's going to come out on Disney Plus. And anyways, I have like 4 different movies and shows already backed up on Disney Plus. So I don't know when I'm going to get around to watching that. And it's just like, go to the movies. Theaters are dying.
Whitney,
Come on.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because I'm really proud to announce that Guardians of the Galaxy is pivoting to a Sabrina Carpenter, Olivia Rodrigo culture podcast, where we break down what pulled them apart and what's bringing them back together. And can we blame it all on Role Model? Is Role Model the person that is going to bring them together with his viral Sally song?
Yes.
I got to say, couples goals, am I right? Not cringe at all.
I have to stop him or he's not going to stop.
True.
Whitney, does this, no pun intended, does this spell doom for Brand New Day and Doomsday?
Not necessarily, but something that I do, because first of all, I mean, everybody loves Spider-Man. There's no one, like, even in the worst, like, depths of depravity of the MCU, everyone's gonna show up for Spider-Man. You can't up Spider-Man too bad. So I don't think that Spider-Man is gonna be as affected. However, I do think that this movie, Fantastic Four, was the MCU's big opportunity to give us an original story that is just standalone. We don't need to know any other characters. We don't need, like, any tie-ins. There wasn't, none of this, like, led back to a post-credit scene from 2018. And I think that because this movie didn't do as well as Marvel hoped, I'm worried that their takeaway is going to be, oh, that we didn't shove enough cameos in there. That was the problem. And then it's just
that's
going to
not the
be
lesson they
in
learned.
cameo fest for the rest of our lives because the one movie, this one and then also Eternals, both of those flopped and there was no cameos. And I'm very concerned that they are going to take that as a sign to just make everything Deadpool and Wolverine and Multiverse of Madness. Like, it's just gonna, I think that they're gonna take away the wrong message, and I don't want them to, because even though it wasn't for me necessarily, that doesn't mean that I don't love certain aspects of it, most especially that it was a completely new universe. I thought that part was very cool.
I actually think that this movie has potential to have a longer tail. Like, it's the decrease from week 1 to 2 was very significant. I don't think I think it has potential to kind of even out and make a decent amount of money over the next 4 to 5 weeks and actually end up being not a huge, I mean, like, I think it ends up being mediocre but not disastrous at the box office, because word of mouth on this movie is very good. I think, like, Whitney, I'm pretty much in perfect agreement with you on this movie. Like, I think, like, your grievances with it are kind of exactly how I feel. You put them very well. But I also think that, like, this movie, I think the significant drop, it really has a lot to do with just the fact that it came out so soon to Superman. But now they're competing, and the fact of the matter is Superman is just a bigger name than Fantastic Four. So all the people that still haven't seen this movie, when they go and see there's 2 superhero movies in theaters and they haven't seen either one, I feel like it's probably 75-25 picking Superman over Fantastic Four. And that's just because, I mean, ultimately,
especially general audiences.
Yes.
Yeah, general audiences. Because, you have to think about just, like, the average family that's just like, all right, kids, what's playing at 2 p.m. on a Sunday? Let's go see whatever that movie is. And, like,
together!
Together!
I want to see together!
I want to see together! I want to see Alison Brie and James Franco stuck together by their faces! Yay! If those are your 2 options for what's playing at the mall at 2 p.m. on a Sunday, they're gonna pick Superman because there's a dog in it, and kids love dogs, and I love dogs.
Well, that kind of brings me back to what you had said a second ago, Whitney, was that, everybody loves Spider-Man. Do you guys think that the fact that there's really never been a good Fantastic Four movie, I mean, that Tim Story, the first one, it has a special place in my heart. I remember seeing that as a kid, but there's really never been a good Fantastic Four movie. In fact, the last one was just downright awful.
Say that again?
Do you guys think that there's just a bad taste in the mouth about Fantastic Four, and then you mix that with the fact that the MCU's kind of been in a hole? And on top of that question, I just want to add that I agree that I hope that they aren't learning the wrong lessons here, and I hope that they realize that they are in a hole right now, and that Thunderbolts and even Fantastic Four, that they're climbing out of that hole. I think right now they need to be more focused on having a good Rotten Tomatoes score, a good critic response and audience response, then they need to be worrying about the actual, like, box office. But
Sure.
what do you guys tell me? Do you think that the Fantastic Four is just kind of a tainted brand?
Well, no, I think what we're discovering is that it's a hard to adapt brand. I think we're discovering that there's a reason why it's so successful as a comic book. I mean, it is fantastical, right? Like, when you translate it to the screen, you have to explain this kind of tragic story of these 4 astronauts that go up to space and, like, hit a cosmic wave and get all these powers. And there's just not enough time to really tell that story in one movie. But yet, the expectation is when you're explaining the origin of one hero, you can kind of knock it out in 20 minutes and spend the whole movie. This is like 4 main characters, basically, because they are the Fantastic Four. And even though we can argue that Ben Grimm kind of takes the Ringo role in this movie, and it's just
For sure.
Yeah, like, but it's like, he's still, it's a 25% split, on paper. And I think it did not translate to that on screen. I think we're just discovering that of the comic book properties, this is one of the more unwieldy. For better or for worse, it's really kind of hard to make a bad Batman movie. I mean, they've tried with Clooney and with Batman.
Oh, they've done it. Yeah.
Dawn of Justice.
I think that they've succeeded.
With enough prep time, you can always make a bad
With
Batman
enough
movie.
prep time, you can make any Batman movie bad.
But to be fair, Ben Affleck as Batman was generally praised in his performance. Like, they were like,
he's great Batman.
He's a great Batman. It's kind
He
of
just wasn't in a good movie.
He just was in a bad movie, but it's kind of hard to, like, not make that character enjoyable on screen. Like it's pretty easy to get Batman on screen. It feels like whatever you surround him with can be disastrous. You get Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze, and the movie kind of goes off the rails, or you get a crazy. The only reason Batman and Superman stop trying to kill each other is because their moms have the same name. Like you can have silly stuff around it, but to that point, I feel like we're discovering that like name recognition matters. Like it matters to average moviegoers, and I liken what's happening to Marvel right now is like, this is going to turn off some people, but stay with me and I'll make this very short and clear. It's like a sports team that has to go through rebuilding years. They're in a rebuilding process now. Yes. And that means there's going to be growing pains. The money isn't going to flow in like it used to. People aren't going to just blindly hand their dollars over. Mm-hmm. Now they have to build back trust. And how they have to do that is to home grow talent. Like in baseball, you have to draft players, put them up through the minors, and elevate them. They have to introduce new characters like the Fantastic Four, like the Marvels, like all these characters. You have to grow them up and get people on board with them, and then they can shine as stars.
Well, no, it's like how nobody gave a shit about Iron Man until they made like a really good Iron Man movie.
Exactly.
Nobody even read Guardians of the Galaxy. I certainly didn't before it came out. I was like, who the f- are these guys? I just went because it was a superhero movie.
90% of us on YouTube during Guardians of the Galaxy 1 were complete frauds, pretending that we're like, yeah, man, I've always been a fan of Groot.
Oh, yeah,
Groot's
no, totally.
Dude, Groot is sick, man.
Yeah.
I remember
it's so funny when he
Groot
says, I am Groot, huh? Like,
I love Grunt.
Yeah, Groot.
I love
It's
groomed.
Groot.
Yeah, Groot. Yeah, sure.
Tommy, that reminds me of when we were... I'll bring up Sydney Sweeney. When we were covering that one movie, and you go, "Well, what's that movie? Why you?" Why?
Yeah,
Play the clip.
I turned into a 65-year-old man in that moment. What's that movie called? Anyone But You? Why him?
It's
Who
called
are?
That's
Anyone
actually
But
the
You.
title.
That's the actual title, yes.
Oh, well, accidents happen. Broken clocks right twice a day, folks.
But Tommy, you said something that kind of made me think Spider-Man, Batman, Superman, those are all IPs that I think do not belong on television. Like, I hate what they've kind of been doing with Superman. They had him living on TV so much. Superman's a movie character. And, I'm a big put things in theaters. I think they're doing way too much shit for Disney Plus, and I think Marvel has this problem, and Star Wars especially has this problem where they're putting things into streaming series that should really be movies, and then almost vice versa, they're putting things that should be streaming series as movies. Whitney, am I crazy to say that Fantastic Four, after 3 Fantastic Four movies and then that first one that never even got released, it's never been this box office success? It's not this huge name like a Spider-Man, Batman, Avengers, Justice League. Am I crazy to think that maybe it would have been better suited as a TV show, going off Tommy's point that it's, to actually explore the family and the characters?
Something that I thought about that I thought would have been really neat to see if it was a TV show. I think that a cool way to have gotten to know the characters would be to do the episodes and have a portion where you show kind of the same scene from each different character's perspective so that you can get to know them that way. I think that would be really, really cool because that would allow you to see how they individually see something that they're all experiencing. I think that would have given us a way better idea of who they are, because the opening scene that displayed their powers, I didn't come away from that scene feeling like I fully understood. Obviously I do because I know the Fantastic Four, but if I was just a regular guy off the street, it's yeah, that guy's on fire. That lady has rainbow hands. That guy can stretch. That guy just looks like a big old rock. I didn't feel like they really conveyed what we were supposed to find individually cool about each character. And I really would have liked to see how each of them would have handled the same fight situation. I think that doing a 4-episode run where they did from a different character's perspective, like the movie, I don't know. I think that would be something that would be really cool and allow us to have a deeper look at these characters that we're supposed to care about, but the movie just wasn't long enough for me to care about them.
Yeah. Shot in the dark here. This could be a reference that doesn't go over well. Have either of you seen Wild Hogs?
John Travolta? You better believe it.
All right, Tommy. Whitney, you suck. Tommy.
Yes.
Tommy, Do you remember how that movie opens with we see each character's life? We get
Yeah.
the black screen with the white title card, Dudley, and it shows like a scene of his life. And then that's what they should have done with Fantastic
I know,
Four.
that's what I
Reed,
want.
Ben, Sue, and yeah, each of them, and then have them like meet for family dinner like that night.
Exactly.
would've been
So,
way
especially
cooler.
what bothered me about Ben and the thing was that I feel like he got done the dirtiest in terms of scenes of his that were probably cut. Like, for example, I think that his scenes with John Malkovich probably would have been cool to see. I also think that he just didn't have enough of a connection with Natasha Lyonne in the 2 scenes we saw her in for me to have like really cared about that relationship. I think that it's possible. I mean, I don't know. I think it's possible that they probably shot more scenes between the 2 of them to like make
Totally.
us care more. So especially for The Thing, I wanted to see so much more of his story, and I really think that it would have made me care about him more because, like, Tommy and I talked about this on Palaxy, but it's like with Reed and Sue, it's like, okay, this is their baby. With Johnny, it's like, that is my nephew. And with The Thing, it's like, hey, that's my best friend's kid. And it's like, he doesn't really have...
the girl I was in love with.
Right.
Yeah, and the girl I was in love with, yeah, and then that's... I don't know. He doesn't have the same like strong, clear motivation / purpose.
Well,
So you're calling The Thing a cuck. All right, got it. Tell
yeah,
me.
he's a cuck and he's the Ringo.
I hear like all of the concerns, and I understand them, but I think the reality of the situation is, and this I may be very much on my own. I am not that excited about the Fantastic Four getting into the MCU 616. I'm very excited about a second Fantastic Four movie being made because I think there's way more. Yeah. That's way more fun and appealing. But I do think that movie was necessary because probably the most valuable thing about the Fantastic Four is that they introduced Doctor Doom, and so. Yeah. Why the MCU is going to be fine is because the movie has Avengers and Doomsday in the title. And that is going to bring out even the most casual of fans for all of the reasons we just described as what we don't love about it. But the fact of the matter is, from a bottom line, moving the MCU forward, that movie is going to do just fine on that title alone. But I no longer, after seeing this movie, am like, I got to get those guys into the MCU. I'm more like, I'd like to see more of them on that planet, fighting the villains of that planet and maybe meeting other heroes on that planet than I am about seeing them cross over the MCU. Now, obviously they will, but to me, I'm more excited about Fantastic Four 2 as a possibility than I am about them joining the main MCU.
If they don't have a scene in Fantastic Four 2 where they show the family solving racism and homophobia and capitalism, I will be so sad because I want to see how they do it, baby. They got all those people on board. I'm like, damn, how?
Their universe is just so much cooler. I hope like when they do that reset after Secret Wars that Feige was talking about, the MCU feels so much like superheroes dropped into our world. I would much rather it be like we're getting dropped into theirs and have like this more like comic-y universe. Yeah. Tommy, what you were saying about Doomsday and how the title alone can hopefully save it, that's a perfect segue into what I wanted to talk about next, and how I think Brand New Day and Doomsday can be saved if they do this. Okay, so I think the secret to Marvel getting out of this funk and regaining the success of the Infinity Saga begins with them accepting that they may have caught lightning in a bottle with that Infinity Saga, and they need to stop chasing that high and just focus on making good movies. If you build it, they will come. If you make kick-ass movies that people want to see, they'll come see them. But it's gonna take more than Thunderbolts being great to convince everyone to come back, and that's why everything is riding really on Spider-Man Brand New Day, and of course Avengers Doomsday. Now, as Whitney said earlier, everybody loves Spider-Man. He has a mass appeal. No Way Home nearly cleared $2 billion. And Spider-Man Brand New Day is likely to do the same if they make a good movie, which I'm optimistic that they are cooking with Brand New Day. With that practical suit and shooting in real locations, I think it's going to be great, or at least I hope it is. And Brand New Day will be the lead-in to Avengers Doomsday, which will also very likely feature Spider-Man. And I do think think that general audiences will come out to see an Avengers movie, perhaps with tempered expectations, but they'll still show up. And if it's great, if they can stick the landing and make a truly banger of a movie, Secret Wars will be positioned to be the highest grossing Marvel movie of all time and set the stage for a Marvel renaissance for the following saga, which is likely the Mutant Saga. But hey, those are just my thoughts. Let me know yours down in the comments below. And if you're new here, be sure to subscribe and smash that bell for alerts. For ScreenCrush, I'm Colton Ogburn.